Hey. Hey.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Just kidding, that's stupid. Hey, my name's Tim. This is Nate. Welcome to the Tonight Show. So glad that you're joining us. And another week, and we
Yeah.
just celebrated Father's Day.
It's a great day. It's a good
What'd
day.
you get, Nate?
Well, I got this shirt. I really did. I got this shirt. It's nice. It's
like a hunter green. It's like you walked into.
You go to the beach or camo in the woods.
Yeah, I almost didn't see you.
Yeah. Whoa, here I am.
Yeah. I got what did I get?
Screwdriver, power tool.
I got these shelves that hang in my garage. It's such a dad thing. I don't know.
Wow, you
they're
really
pretty
are.
Nice.
That's an old man thing. Yeah.
It's not a gift, but I cleaned my Dodger hat.
How do you do that?
You put it in the dishwasher. No detergent.
You mean the washing machine?
No, dishwasher. And you use the gentle cycle. So, in case you want to know how to clean
that's great. I'll definitely do it. Yeah, that's good.
What other unique things, questions can we talk about?
Yeah, so I got a couple I've pulled up here. First one is one of my favorite categories, which is food. What weird food combinations do you really enjoy that most people would think are very odd?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, for instance, I probably like sauerkraut more than most people.
I hate sauerkraut.
And so I put sauerkraut.
Anything you say after that, I'm out.
Sauerkraut and egg salad.
That's disgusting.
Actually, gives it a very nice peppery relish taste.
Okay, it's not a weird combination, but you know who? I love tuna.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not talking like the fillet tuna, but I'm talking from the canned tuna with
oil
mayonnaise.
Or water based.
Oil's better.
Okay.
But Subway actually, and there's no sponsorship here, believe it or not. They have the best tuna.
Yeah.
But at home, I like a tuna melt. You put some bread, some nice tuna, and some cheese on top of that.
Broil it a little bit.
Yeah,
that's good. Okay. All right. What food have you never eaten but would really like to try?
I said this a couple weeks ago. Takis. Never had a Taki.
They're good. I mean, just hot Cheetos I think are better. But I hear that. I think for me, it would be a kumquat.
What is that?
It's like a lemon-shaped fruit, but smaller.
What's the? I see them in the store, and I watch a lot of cooking shows. But it's wrapped in bread, and then the meat's on the inside.
Yes.
What's that called?
What's it called? Fruit, something fruit.
No, but I want to try that.
Okay, that's legit. All right.
It's like wrapped. It's a fillet wrapped in bread, though. I'll think of it. It'll be too late at this point.
Well, that's cool.
I'm gonna Google it while
you do that. Okay, what movie can you watch over and over again without ever getting tired of it?
Frozen. I'm just kidding.
That would be.
My kids will watch that.
Yeah, no, I get that. So will Lucy.
Yeah.
What about for me? I think it's gonna be The Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
The trilogy. Yeah, The Hobbit too, but the trilogy is really the most.
Remember the Titans is up there. That's
really?
one that you can just watch over and over. I love that. When I was in high school, it just had come out, and so that was the movie that any substitute teacher would put on. So
that's a great one.
It's one that I never got tired of.
And you have to remember that they were Titans. Yeah. Okay.
I'm looking that up still slowly.
Okay, that's fine. What animal would be the cutest if you scaled it down to the size of a cat? I think an elephant.
Beef Wellington is what I was looking for. Look at it. Doesn't that look good?
Oh, that's good, but that's not a fruit.
No, I'm saying earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The earlier
we said
question.
With food.
You've never eaten?
I've made beef Wellington. I make a mean
Is it
beef
delicious?
Wellington.
You
Yes.
should make it for me sometime.
You have this duck
Here's a picture
sauce.
in case you want to know what a beef Wellington looks like.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's puff pastry with a mushroom sautéed under the bread. So it's the best combination ever. A little bit pricey, but very delicious. Okay, what's yours? Mine was an elephant. Miniaturized.
What was the question?
Miniaturized animal to the size of a cat. Any animal you wanted. I chose elephant.
Elephant, that'd be cute. I'm more of a cuddly type of guy, so I'm going to take just your average lion that is the size of a cat. Yeah. It is a cat, but it'd be the size of a house cat.
Just like a house cat.
Shrunken down to where if it bites you, it won't rip your head off.
Just a finger.
No, it's manageable.
No, that's good. Okay. What's something that will always be in fashion no matter how much time passes? Hats. I think hats. Baseball hats.
Yeah, that's a great question.
But really, think about it. There's not much more besides hats. Neckties, I guess, have been always dresses for women.
It's a great question. I don't have that answer.
I think shoes.
T-shirts. A white T-shirt is timeless. A classic white
T-shirt. That has made it through many generations.
It's made it through many generations, many different styles, many different cultures even. So I'd say a white T-shirt.
White T-shirt. That's a good guess. Yeah, I think for girls, definitely a dress. Dresses have been around forever too. Okay. What actors or actresses play the same character in almost every movie or show they do? I think of Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Totally
he's had
the
some
same
serious
dude.
movies. So.
Yeah, but I still feel like he's like, it's Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
But like having a serious day.
That's true. He's funny, though.
He is funny.
He's a very funny man.
God rest his soul, but Chris Farley.
Robin Williams was one.
Really? I feel like he was dynamic.
I mean, as dynamic as Jim Carrey.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Tom Hanks and Robin Williams are pretty epic actors. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
We can.
That's why we
agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree on.
Okay, so who's the other? Tommy Boy, obviously Chris Farley, and Adam Sandler.
Yeah. I don't love him, but he plays the same
dude
character. He yells
movie.
A lot.
He does.
Rah rah rah.
And he has the same weird voices he does. Okay. What is the best, worst practical joke that you've played on someone or that someone's played on you?
I didn't know this question, but it instantly came to my mind. So we're going into political season, and so what I did, and if anyone does this to me, like be original, figure something else out, okay? So don't copycat this one. But we went around and we took up a lot of election signs.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we put them in everyone's yard but my youth pastor's on a cul-de-sac. And so he came out and everyone had all these political signs but his. And so all his neighbors knew that it was him or he was affiliated some way, somehow with this gag.
That's
and
amazing.
So they weren't very happy with it.
That's really intense.
Yeah. We also TP'd everyone's yard but his. We were not cool.
That's wild.
Is that what you're looking for?
I can't even top that, so I'm not even going to say it. But we have a game coming up, so we have so many more questions, but let's pass it off to a game.
Hola! Today we're playing a game called Dizzy Chairs. The goal is to spin 10 times, or be spun 10 times in these office chairs at the end of the hall, and then the first one to come grab the golden palm tree is the winner. Are you guys ready? Yeah! On your marks, get set, spin!
Oh my god.
I got it! No mercy.
Run!
Yep.
He missed it! I'm the winner! I'm the winner!
Well, just no. I should have won that game. I should have won. That's all I'm going to say. Hey guys, we are in James still. We're finishing out the letter of the book of James. And it was about this week that I also realized it was a letter. And also, I was reminded that letter writing and like card writing, it's kind of a dying art. And it's not something that I'm very good at, very patient at. I had to write a thank you card last week. And no, my mom did not make me write it. And no, it was not to my grandparents. But my hand actually like cramped halfway through. I was like, I'm going to give up on this. Like, I'm not that patient. I can't learn handwriting again. I can't imagine what everybody, seniors, you must be feeling as you're kind of thinking about heading back to college soon. You got to go back to school, you know? It's summer. Nobody wants to think about that. But this letter is so long, in fact, like it's kind of built a little bit like an essay. So if you think of when you write a paper, right, you got like the introduction, the opening phrase to the James he's writing to the church there. So he's like greeting the people. Then you kind of have this middle. He talks a lot about like we talked about wisdom from above and the tongue and all of that. And then at the end, he actually goes back to kind of what he had mentioned in the beginning. So he talks a lot to the early church about being patient and suffering, because the early church was in the middle of living under this guy named like Nero. So he's one of the emperors there, and he actually like hated Christianity. Like he blamed a lot on the Christians, and he was even went so far as like persecuting them and like killing them, like feeding them to lions. If you hear about stories like that of the early Christians, or like setting them on fire, some pretty gnarly stuff. But James writes, he says, "Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand." So I'm really, I'm just like also really not great with plants. Like if anybody knows me, like I have a really hard time keeping like cactuses alive, and they're like the most basic of all plants. Like you literally just sit there, like let them do their thing. I always watch like Summer is Hunter's wife. She has on her Instagram like all these beautiful plants, and like one day I'd really like to be so farmer-like. But James, he's talking to the people who really did live off the land, and they knew a lot about farming. And the closest comparison I can think of is, I think it was for my 15th birthday. I got this like clementine tree. You know those little like cuties you can buy in the store? They're kind of bougie. They're not like oranges, a little bit smaller. Well, I got one of them for my birthday. It was a tiny little plant. I thought it was super cool. I named it Clem because I'm really original like that. And I did all this research. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a farmer. There's a lot you need to know about farming, even just for my little plant, you know? It has to have the right soil. It has to have the right like sunlight. It has to be the right temperature. You only water at certain periods of time. And then all of that for one fruit, maybe off of this small tree, that grows into something bigger. Like a lot of it takes like years and years to kind of see the fruit of. And for mine, you know, because I'm really not green thumbed, black thumb, I like to say, like the plague, you know, it wasn't even guaranteed that I'd get like one small fruit, but I, for about 2 weeks, would wake up every morning. I'd run downstairs. I'd like check on my plant. I'd like rotate it a little bit so it'd get some more sunlight, and like speak kind things to it, because that's what I read in a book you were supposed to do. But again, kind of like what James was saying in relation to suffering, like he said, be patient like 3 times in this passage. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. So for me, like as I was like thinking about my plant and thinking about farmers, like they kind of had this end goal. And for the early Christians, like a lot of times, I don't know for you guys, in the midst of like suffering, it can be really easy to focus on like what's in front of you, instead of looking at like as Christians, like we have this eternal perspective of the Lord coming back one day. It says, "Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard the steadfastness of Job, and have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful." So verse 9, it says, "Do not grumble against one another as brothers and sisters, so you not be judged." Like, I think in the midst of suffering, like maybe your team has like a goal, you know, and like it could be really easy to kind of start off in your goal, like working as a team, and then as like the workouts get kind of harder, or as maybe one team member isn't doing as you kind of want, or you know, it can be really easy to like grumble against one another and kind of be like, well, you're just not pulling your weight, or like you didn't need to listen to the coach and do what we need to do, or maybe it's against yourself, or maybe somebody has a problem with you. Like it's really easy to fall into those patterns. And James kind of just basically warns the church, like, hey, in the midst of like what's going on, like as you're like continuing in this life and working together in community, like make sure that you're watching your hearts, you're not grumbling against each other. And then finally, he also says, like, in the midst of suffering and patience, brothers, take for example the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. So I think out of this passage, like I see kind of like 3 things that James was kind of encouraging the Christians, and I think also that apply to us today. So first thing, like he was mentioning with the farmer, like the farmer kind of has this end goal and perspective on on the crop, right? Like, in the same way, like us as Christians, like if we believe in Jesus and if our lives are shaped by the gospel, our end goal is the returning of the Lord, right? And I think oftentimes, like in the midst of like the sufferings that we may personally be experiencing, and I don't know for you guys, like I kind of was talking to Nate about this the other day. I was like, like it's hard when I read passages like this because I'm like, man, like I'm not being killed for my faith. And I know in some parts of the world, like people are, but right here, like, I don't know, like, does this passage like still apply to me? Like, and I think like, yeah, it does. Like, I think as Christians, like we should be encountering some sort of like suffering. And I would say like, maybe there's areas in my life right now where I can think about times where I shy away from that just because I'm afraid. It's kind of like the analogy of writing a letter. Like it gets painful and I don't want to go through that, I guess. So I think sometimes it can be a little easy. Like maybe there's a prompting in your heart to like invite a friend to a youth group, or maybe to speak out against gossiping, or maybe to share your faith even. And like, you might be teased for that, or maybe your friend group might exclude you for that. And I think like James kind of encourages the church to have that kingdom mindset and that end goal. And within that, like it makes it easier to walk through the hard bits. And the second thing he says, like, is that we're not really alone in that either. Like he gives the examples of the prophets because the early church would have had the Old Testament. They would have read about these like really weird guys who like, like they spoke out in a city the things that the Lord laid on their hearts. Like they were persecuted in some ways for what they believed. And some of them even like people were like trying to kill them, and like stone them. Just really gnarly and intense. But I can think of people in my life that model like, ooh, there's a thingy. Like people in my life who like model what it means to love Jesus and continue on in their faith. Like maybe for you, it's looking at missionaries that or reading stories of like martyrs, for their faith. Or maybe it's like your family or a mentor that you look up to that's like, man, they went through some really hard things, and this is how they kept their focus. Like this is how the Lord was faithful to them in the midst of that time. Like I want to do the same thing. So the last thing James says is to fix our eyes on God. It says, you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. As the Bible is full of God's character and his loving kindness to people, to us. I think like when we're encountering suffering, or when we talk about our faith and when times get like really hard, something that's helpful for me, honestly, is just pulling out a piece of paper and, as cheesy as it sounds, writing the things I'm thankful for that I know the Lord has provided for me. Or maybe like reading a story or a passage in John about God's love for the world. He loved us so much that he gave of himself. He died so that we could have a relationship with him. And I think that also perspective, when things are getting really hard, shows us the end goal. Like, it's worth it. He's worth it, guys. So that's my encouragement from James in the midst of suffering, in the midst of this crazy season, even now with like COVID. Like, what does it look like to live with an eternal purpose, to look to people around us, to look to people who are maybe further along in their relationship with God and their faith. Maybe they're a little bit older and wiser and have lived through a bit more of life. And also just to look at God's character, that he's good, that he loves us, and that he's always with us. So I'm going to pray for us. We're going to close it out. And that's all I have to say. God, thank you so much for this time, Father. Thank you that in the midst of the challenges that come at us in life, Father, that you are good and that you love us, Father, that we can look to you, and we can look to these early Christians, Father, actually, and see how they persevered only through your grace in the midst of some really challenging things, God, and how you walked alongside of them in that and provided for them, Father. Thank you for the analogy of farmers, God, for the reminder that things do take time to grow, Father, and that that you're just good, God. Thank you for these students, and the chance to gather together online. In your name I pray, amen.
Hey, thanks, T. That was a great reminder of what endurance looks like for us as Christians, to not only just live through life with endurance and keep pushing forward, but also how to live at peace with our brothers and sisters in Christ and those who don't know who Jesus is. So thanks for reminding us of that. It's a really great thing.
Absolutely. Hey, we just have one big announcement. Next week, July 1st, we won't have our online Tonight Show. Due to just the 4th of July week. Take the week off, spend time with your family, your friends, celebrating July 4th. But then we will be back with our online platform July 8th. And so we look to see you then. And then also make sure you're following our social media as we're starting to slowly come online with in-person gatherings through the month of July and definitely into August. You want to make sure you're following our social medias, which are right here somewhere on the screen. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the 8th.
Bye.